Sales is not for the faint of heart. So how do you convince anyone to buy what you're offering? Plus, what is the trajectory of a gun salesperson? Also, in this episode, we talk about the latest digital marketing news. All that and a whole lot more in this episode of Inbound Buzz.
Welcome to the Inbound Buzz Podcast, your weekly jolt of all things digital and inbound marketing. Brought to you by redpandas.com.au. Now for your host and co-founder of Red Pandas, Moby Sadiq.
Welcome to Inbound Buzz, episode 118. My name is Moby Sadiq and I'm joined by my co-host, Tony Cow. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you, Moby. How are you going?
Very well, very well. So before we get our special guest today and our colleague, Janeka Hardwick, obviously let's start with the news, right? What's making news in digital marketing? What do you got for us today? What's the first thing?
Our first story, Googlebot will crawl and index the first 50 megabytes of content per page. So Google's updated their help document about Googlebot, and apparently now they're just gonna scrape or run or crawl up.
Index
the first 50 megabytes of a page. So basically, from what I interpreted it, it's going to start doing the first 15 megabytes, which means our web pages might have to be a bit lighter, Moby.
This is really interesting because Google's essentially saying that the bot that scrapes and crawls your site is only going to measure 15 megabytes of your site. Now, often, we'll find on websites 2 megabyte images. That's like 10% of everything you're going to scrape. So if you run a business or you're a marketing person and already, you've probably heard websites have to be fast and they have to load quickly and slow images. This is even more reason. Don't take Google's bandwidth of scraping your site by having big images. So I think it's an important note for sure.
Yeah, and also the article said to ensure Google ranks your page appropriately, make sure the Google box can crawl and index that part within the first 15 megabytes. So I think it's, in terms of SEO, it's getting serious, and we're to keep our websites lighter.
Lighter, faster. Yeah, awesome. What do we got next? What's next?
Meta unveils new policy to fight fake reviews. So Facebook's been dealing with a lot of fake reviews in the past, 5-10 years, with fake reviews getting purchased online. And they've come out with a new policy. It's called a community feedback policy. And they're rolling out across to target fake reviews and stuff. And this is interesting, Moby, because, even as a consumer on Facebook, there is a lot of fake reviews and sometimes we get misled. So it's good to see Facebook going towards that direction.
And Zuckerberg can't win. It's always this. Now they're dealing with fake reviews. I know Twitter's dealing with that stuff too. So it's not only a Facebook issue. But yeah, I guess it's important to know, you can still get a lot of fake reviews. I'm not saying you should, but be wary of reviews for Facebook pages because a lot of them can be fake.
On groups, everything. So just beware what you're reading. Our third story, the term audience has been promoted on Google. So basically, this might be confusing, Moby, so just let me try to explain it. They've announced the term, they've actually changed the term remarketing, and they're replacing it with your data. So for instance, anything with audience has been changed to segment. So it's not custom audience, it's not in-market audience, it's custom segment. They've changed it.
Yeah, I mean, so what? Thanks, Google. Thanks for just adding more confusion. You're changing remarketing to your data. So how am I supposed to communicate that to clients now? It's we're going to run your data ads. It's almost like a nothing burger.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so any other implications for marketers? What does this essentially mean?
Well, basically on your Google dashboard, things have changed a bit. So if you look at your share audiences, things have been renamed, but audiences have apparently been promoted because everything that was originally an audience is now a segment. And audience contains segments, but they also contain interests, detail, demographics, and so on. So it's a bit different, but apparently it's supposed to help us target and help us with our marketing campaigns.
I don't know. I mean, does Google just have too many people on their payroll and they just got to find stuff to do? Is this supposed to be a privacy thing? We're going to change remarketing to your data? Because the idea of big tech giving a shit about your data is a joke. They don't care. And you were sharing some stuff with me before, right? With the whole iOS thing.
Yes. So in regards to this topic, though, people might be thinking that it's because of iOS update and privacy
And just
matters.
explain that real quick. So the iOS Facebook tracking issue.
It's funny because everyone forgot that Apple has as during the update, iOS update, right? They never stopped tracking us, right? They only stopped sharing that data, maybe. So Apple is still tracking you, and he knows everything about you, and it's going to use you for their purpose. So everyone forgets about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. They don't care. Like, it is what it is, right? The next story, this is interesting. And guys, like, we don't do this on purpose. Like, if you're a regular listener to the show, thank you so much. Please leave a review on iTunes. Please get in touch with us. Ask us questions, that type of thing. But if you are a regular, you're like, man, these guys, all they talk about is TikTok. The thing is, there's always new news about TikTok. Like, what can I say? So this new one here is, there is a new report that highlights TikTok's rising value as a promotional options for small, medium businesses. So Facebook's still number one, according to this research, because what they did was, it was a study by Hello Alice, and they surveyed over 7,000 small businesses to get more insights about how they're using TikTok. Now, this is really interesting. Most of the businesses that we work with are medium enterprise or larger small businesses. So essentially what they're saying, Facebook is still number one, but it's declining in its efficacy. It's declining in how many marketers actually see it as effective. And businesses are increasingly seeing the effectiveness of TikTok. So maybe share a couple of stats with us from that study.
So apparently 52% of small businesses agree that they can get results through TikTok organically. And also 58% indicated that the platform has positively affected their business, while 78% plan to increase their TikTok marketing investment. So that shows that TikTok ads are working, Moby. But also organically, it's working very well.
Yeah. So we say that. It's one thing for us to say that until we're blue in the face. But the data is showing us that almost 60% of people almost 60% of small businesses find that's positively affected their business. And like you say, almost 80% of them want to increase their expenditure in TikTok. Now, this is the thing, right? If you try to build a page on Instagram today, unless you're a celebrity, you're going to struggle. But with TikTok, it's 2022. It's still not too late. You can still start from zero and build a huge audience. The algorithm rewards creators, right? The algorithm rewards really good creators. Very similar to the LinkedIn algorithm as well. There are two algorithms in the space that still have a lot of opportunity for brands to jump onto it. So just like 10 years ago, when you and I first started probably doing Facebook ads, and it was like 10 cents and 3 cents, you can do that on TikTok right now. Your competitors are only just starting to get into it. And the other thing too, the last thing I'll say about this is everyone, marketers all the time, the problem is trying to get UGC content, right? Like getting your customers or getting that really authentic type of ads. With TikTok, you can almost kind of, not fake UGC, but almost all of TikTok is UGC.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to literally, and like I said in some old episodes when I went to a LinkedIn shoot where they had TikTokers promoting LinkedIn, a lot of the videos we shot, we had expensive cameras there. A lot of the videos we shot were on our phones.
Yeah, right.
UGC style. You know what I mean? Like saying, hey, I tried this product and you won't believe the impact it had on. Now, this is going to get stale really, really fast. This is like a little wave, and this wave's going to go too. But you can jump onto it now and take advantage.
So that's only for, you're talking about paid ads, but what about organically building followers? Is it too late now, or can we jump on?
No, I meant that as well. I meant that with organic as well. You can start from today. Like I was on TikTok 2 years ago and I built an audience. Then I took my foot off the gas regrettably. And now I've come back into it. And I'm noticing some posts. The thing is, quantity breeds quality. You've got to put content out. The more content you put out, the more market research and data it gives you. So I'll put out 10 posts. They'll do 500 views, 600 views, 1,000. And then I'll put one out and it'll get 300,000, 400,000 views. And this was like a few days ago or a week ago. So it's definitely organically. And by this data shows, I agree with everything on this data, organically and paid. There's still a lot of opportunity on TikTok.
Fantastic. Our last story, LinkedIn announces Business Manager. So Business Manager, as a lot of you got Facebook marketers know, Business Manager is such an effective platform where it centralizes everything. And a lot of Facebook, marketers love that stuff. But LinkedIn has announced their new business manager platform. It's to centralize everything, managing multiple ad sets, for large enterprises, agencies, helps agencies out, with efficiency. So we can manage people, ad accounts, and business pages. There's no launch date yet, but it's interesting. It's getting there. It's going to make us, a lot more effective and efficient.
100%. And we'll share that, as updates sort of come out. You know what I really like about this, Tony? I like how they just called it business manager, because we know what business manager is on Facebook. Google and Facebook did this thing where one of them called it remarketing and the other one called it retargeting.
Yeah.
And they just will come up. One calls it custom audiences, one calls it custom segments.
Similar audiences
on Google.
audiences.
Lookalike on Facebook. Like, guys, can you stop? Like, we have enough stuff to do with as marketers. Can you just bloody keep it simple?
So true.
So the biggest thing for me is like the fact that they kept the name the same. But yeah, like you say, Tony, this will be good for agencies or bigger brands that have multiple accounts, like Business Manager, they can manage that. So yeah, awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
So Tony is I'm going to say farewell to Tony, and he's going to join us next week. And the reason for that is for our featured buzz, I'm going to introduce Janeko Hardwick, who is from our sales department and head of growth at Red Pandas. Now, just so you guys know, recently Janeko did a sales assessment with Curlin and Associates, right? So they're one of these sales trainers, one of these places where you can do sales training and assessments, that type of thing. And Janeko scored in the top 16% of the thousands of people who have ever done this assessment. Now, I know I said that to embarrass him, and I'm probably going to make him more nervous than he is. But he is a man who knows a thing or two about sales. Janeko Hardwick, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks, Moby. Happy to be here, mate.
Awesome. So, one thing that people don't know, that they might not know about you, is you were a professional athlete. You played for Japan professionally.
I played in Japan, yeah.
Played in Japan as well. For the Philippines team as well, professionally. And the stories you tell me, like with the cameras and the drone training and just that insane level of training. So you've been there, you've done that, and now you still play semi-pro, which is amazing. My first question is we've heard this starter before, that there's 3 fields where salespeople, you'll find really good salespeople from. One is professional sports like yourself, the other is military, and the third is performing arts. But if I could ask you, what do you think it is about being a professional athlete that translate well into sales? What would you say?
Well, I think the biggest thing in particular, obviously from an athletics side of things, as an athlete, you need that persistence, you need that grit. You got to keep turning up for pre-seasons, even when you don't want to. Sometimes we get cold mornings, you don't want to train, but you got to keep turning up. Similar to that with sales. Sales is like an emotional roller coaster. So, some days where, it's very tough. Some days where it's quite easy. But at the end of the day, you got that resilience at the end of the day. Probably what I'll come back down to is probably the 3 traits that I would look for. In particular would be like resilience, as I just mentioned. I'd also mention that, the persistence, you got to keep there, you got to keep in the fight, you got to keep at it, you got to have a thick skin as well. But in particular, this is probably like a little bit of going away from the athletic side of things and more on the sales side of things is something that I would like to call like a 70-30 rule. So what you do is instead of on a sales call, you're pitching, you're basically, you'll probe a lot of questions, so you're only talking 30% of the time. Most of that's questions. 70% of the time you're listening. Similar to like a doctor, for example, maybe like a doctor, they'll come in, they're not going to throw all these medicines down your throat. They'll say, tell us about, what can I do for you today? They open that up. Does this hurt? How does this feel? And then from there, they give you the antidote. Sales is no different to that.
I love that because we actually talk about that, right? Like agitating the pain and then giving, the solution. Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. I really like that. So speaking of traits, so obviously you mentioned resilience. What else? Was there anything else you think that, if you were hiring someone as a salesperson in the Red Pandas team, like what other traits would you look for?
They're the ones in particular, to be honest.
Because other things can be trained essentially.
Other things can be trained, 100%. I started this role without any training on the industry, but I've literally just started just with those 3 things, to be honest. So it's important. Everything else you can train 100%.
So speaking of that, so obviously you came into Red Pandas knowing nothing about digital marketing, right? It's not like, you're hired because you're a digital marketing expert. I think I know you used to sell labor hire. It's a different industry. So from someone who knew nothing about digital marketing to now someone who's actually closing deals in the industry, how do you do that? Like, how do you go from knowing nothing to then being able to sell, especially to an audience who probably knows a lot more about it than you do?
Yeah, so I guess to start off with, we're to start like right from the beginning, right? So in the beginning, obviously I was doing sales for a labor hire company. Coming into this sort of space was just completely left field for myself.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
But in saying that, we just had to start from the basics. So at Red Pandas, we just had a bit of our platform was for myself to get used to the calls, get used to certain different industries, certain
So
pain
step one
points.
wasn't even closing sales. Just get used to calls. Just get used to
Just
conversations.
get used to calls.
And that's the KPI, right?
That
Yeah.
was the first probably 6 weeks, I'd say. And then from there, it was getting used to booking meetings, just getting 1, getting 2, getting 3. And then from there, booking meetings, and then booking meetings with qualified industries.
Yeah.
Qualified industries.
Which is different to the thing you just said, because I remember, because you're taking me back now. I remember at that time we were like, look, Janeka, I don't care if you book a meeting with the corner store dude.
Yeah.
Just book a meeting. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't. So I think from what you're saying, like, you got to break it down into milestones. So get used to the calls. Just get used to booking connects. And sorry, you were going to say the next step is?
And the next step is they can dive a bit deeper into the industries as you know what the pain points are. That's particularly what helped me, myself in my role. Obviously, jumping into the sales meetings and hearing an expert like yourself, how you run those meetings as well, the discovery meetings and land those sales. We're going to pick up a few things here too that I can use in my calls as well.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the takeaway there is just break it down into milestones, spend. And I think you're right. I think it was probably like 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks before you even did a call. It was just getting used to the top level, like you said before, what are the pain points? And then what do they give a damn about?
Exactly.
So getting used to that.
How do you qualify them?
Yeah. And then I think one thing actually in the start, to be fair, we didn't do a lot of, and we're doing it a lot more now at Red Pandas, is understanding the power of role playing, right? Like the Americans do this really well. Like obviously our American partners.
It's the gospel.
Yeah, they're just so good at role playing. So I think that's probably one thing you could have done. But then like you say, get used to the connects, or you get used to the calls and the rejections, then you get used to connecting with anyone, and then get used to qualifying. Yeah, I love it. And then from there, you're right. Only then did you actually have sales targets. Yeah, which is amazing. Call. So cold calling is one of those things that has been dead for like the last 10 years, right? And I know obviously it's a big part of your role. So I'm just going to ask you a softball question. Janeka, is cold calling dead?
Well, I'd definitely say cold calling isn't dead. But in saying that, if you cold call with a wrong structure, the wrong strategy, then you're just going to run into 1,000 brick walls and it'll be very tough. I think, you've got to understand what who your target audience is. All right. You got to understand their pain points, understand that you can help them. And then you can go through. At least that way there, you know a bit about the clients that you're after, the industries you're after. You know your targets. That's the main point. Calling, just completely calling, just throwing Hail Marys is simply that, just Hail Marys. But you got to know your targets, and you got to go up. You got to pretty much know that you can help them, and then go straight after them. Yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of like, and it's funny too, coming from us, right? We're an inbound marketing agency and that type of thing. So it's weird for people to hear that from us, but you're right. Like, how else do you grow? Like, obviously, and we say this all the time, cold calling. So, I guess, to clarify, like what Janeka's essentially, saying that just on its own, it's not great either, right? Like we're not sitting here saying just do cold calling or just do marketing. Especially in the services industry where it's a B2B or you need to speak to people, you need both. So if you're just cold calling without any, like you say, without no strategy, without no structure, and you don't have marketing, you're wasting your freaking time. It's very inefficient. But if you do marketing without sales, then how do you build that demand? Like how do you actually get new audiences and stuff? So we always say 1 + 1 = 3.
I was just about to say that. That's exactly the motto. 1 + 1 does equal 3. In this game.
Yeah. And if I can give an example, like on the webinar side of things, right? So a good example would be we do a lot of webinars at Red Pandas. And a lot of your role is like to get people to those webinars. I remember yesterday, like I didn't have this on our
I was
notes.
just about to mention that. Yeah.
So explain what happened yesterday. This is a good example of sales and marketing.
Yeah, 100%. So going through my list, I'll go back through the rounds of the cold calling. Cold called this one education provider, this RTO. They've tuned into one of our webinars at the end of last year. There was one particularly around Hubspot. Opened up the call. Yep. They knew our brand name. I had one conversation with her last year. I think originally was to invite her to the webinar.
7-8 months ago.
Yeah, 100%. And then just touched base with us. All of a sudden, end of financial year, great timing. Hey, one, we use Hubspot, and we're in the market for an agency at the minute. And then boom, we landed that meeting. That meeting yesterday, and I was telling you, Moby, like we
didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was like,
no
look,
idea.
this is a low ball, but we'll see what happens. Book this meeting, see what happens. Then all of a sudden, bang, they want a proposal, and there'll probably be a close very soon. By next week. So
I remember we got off that because like we had jumped on that call. We didn't even really you obviously had some notes, and we're like, all right, let's just see how it goes. No idea.
Yeah.
And we got off that and like, drop the price. It's like, yeah, no worries. That sounds really good. Or like she's going away for a week, or one of her colleagues is. She's like, oh no, I still want to meet next week and give me a proposal. And we're like, wow, it was so easy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. But that's sales and marketing working together. She went to a webinar, and when she jumped on, she knew you. So it wasn't cold. It was like lukewarm.
Exactly. And as she mentioned on that call, maybe, she mentioned, no, I know you guys. You guys are big in the HubSpot industry. You guys are diamond partners. You guys are experts in our education space. We know this. We hear in the industry that you guys are the go-tos. So she said, we saw the webinar. It was in the back of our head. And then boom, by the time I got around to it to give them a call, it was just the perfect timing.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And she didn't call you, you called them. And we'll talk a little bit about how the role of tech, we'll come back to that because that definitely helps, right? The role of tech in knowing when to call someone, right?
Yeah.
But we'll get back to that. But so one of the things that makes you really good at your role, Janeko, is you're pretty crafty at getting through gatekeepers. So, we're going to, and guys, if you're listening, like you're getting some gems here, right? We don't give this stuff away to anyone. I don't think we've ever publicly spoken about this, but we're going to give one little gem away. So Janko, share how you get through gatekeepers, right? To get to the key contact, share a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously most sales reps will run into a situation where you're calling the head office, right? You don't have the CEO's mobile number. You want to get to the CEO, right? He's the key decision maker you want, but you only got the gatekeeper, receptionist. Bang. First thing they tell you is like, okay, cool. He's in a meeting. Give you an admin email address, some information through. I'll pass it on to him. It's a dead end. Okay. So what I've found is that you can actually reach out to other members who don't normally take calls. So
they don't have barriers up.
They don't have barriers, no, and they're not trained to reject you. So if that receptionist always has calls of people wanting the CEO from everybody. They want the sales manager. They want the marketing manager. Well, don't go for them. Go for somebody else. LinkedIn, you can see who else is in that company. Reach out for that person. Might be a copywriter, might be someone, an account manager. You get through to them. They'll be like, okay, no worries. Boom. Pass you straight through. Then from there, you can get the key contacts. I've been able to get mobile numbers of CEOs just by simply doing that. So that's one of those.
Yeah, I like that.
That's one of those that we kind of even before this podcast thinking, oh, should we mention this?
Jake was like, oh, I don't know. But the thing is, it's kind of like the content marketing, right? We talk about it. It's like Gary V's strategy. Gary Vee actually says, he's like, if you just follow my content, you don't even have to buy my book, but people will still buy my book.
Exactly.
But they only buy his book because he puts out the content. But yeah, going back to your thing, it just works. It's like, because they're not used to being guarded. Right? Like you call an assistant, hey, look, I'm trying to reach this person. He's not around. Yeah, I love that. All right. So there's a little cheeky trick there. So I spoke about the tech. So the example you mentioned earlier, there was something that obviously pinged you because we're humans. We can't remember the hundreds of people we talk to. There's something that pinged you to, hey, this on your list. It's been 6 months, whatever. Give them a call. I guess what I'm getting at is technology. So in your last role, I remember when you told me this when I first met you. Like you guys use spreadsheets. I was like, really? Like how? So obviously you went from a company and a lot of our prospects still use spreadsheets that where you use spreadsheets and now you use a CRM. Specifically, you use Hubspot. So the question is, how has a CRM helped you in your role as a salesperson?
Exactly. Obviously coming back from calling from Excel spreadsheets, you're shooting in the dark. You might have you got the name, you got the number, you got the email address, but you don't know, if you send an email, you don't know if they're opening it. If you're calling them, you're completely shooting in the dark. You don't know their activity. Going back to what you're talking about with HubSpot in particular, for my role, it's just a complete one-stop shop. Not just for sales and marketing, but for my role in particular, if I call somebody, I can record that phone call. You know, we can go back. It goes back to a contact record. We can re-listen to those calls and say, oh, okay, what were those nuggets, right? Before we go into a sales meeting. Basically, you have all the reporting. You can see how many calls I make in a day, maybe. See how many emails I send out. Not just that in particular, but when you send a sales email, if I got links to a video and stuff like that, it'll actually ping me when they've opened that email, and it'll ping my mobile when they've opened a few links. You might have a prospect, and this happens every single day. You might have a prospect that I might send an email 2-3 months ago, and then the next thing they open up, they want to look at a few links. I always have links of our clients. You know, we work with A, B, C, D, and I have links, and sometimes those the ones are opened. So when they are, then I'm straight on the phone. I get onto them. Then before you know it, we've got a meeting because they're pretty warm. And not just that, but HubSpot tracks IP addresses as well. So you can also see if they've looked at your website, looked at a few videos, jumped on a few pages, stuff like that. If we're running webinars, we can see who tuned into that webinar, and how long, with the Zoom integration, how long they were actually watching that video for and how long they chimed out. So great. Considering that, what I just said, to an Excel spreadsheet, massive difference, Moby.
So you know what I've noticed, like when you think about it, content and sales are very similar. Like with content, I'll put out a bunch of stuff, or Red Pandas will put out a bunch of stuff, and one of them will pop, and you never know which one. Same thing with yourself. Like when you're speaking to people, you're speaking to a bunch of people per day. They may not be ready right then and there, but the fact that you have a HubSpot, just the one feature of them telling you when they open it, and they might need you later. Like there was a dude I was speaking to, or Red Pandas or Janeko, and let me just look them up in my Outlook. That stuff is powerful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, more of a kind of basic, deep kind of question is, at the most basic level of sales, how do you really deal with rejection, man? I know we're kind of coming full circle. You started with resilience. How do you deal with rejection?
Well, and it goes back to what we said at the beginning, that resilience and the persistence, right? You deal with rejections. You kind of anticipate rejection, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be in the role if you get cut about it. But it's amazing because we were just in a meeting this morning, maybe with Derek, right? With his
our sales trainer,
our sales trainer, and he was just saying, he mentioned in terms of like the resilience, you'd be surprised how many people when they get rejected or when they get blown off on a call that they'll be cut for a week, you know what I mean? Which is
he actually said a week, did he?
Yeah. Some of them, some sales reps in the world are a week, which I think it's a bit soft, but I think essentially. You just got to harden up. Like I reckon you just got to harden up, and not just that, but okay, here's a case in point, for example. All right, now I can say this because they're a client of ours now. Originally, there was a printing company, right? I was just there calling the head office, doing the rounds as per usual, and one of their BDMs actually got onto me and was just like, "Hey man, you've called us last week. You sent an email through, bro, just give up, man. We're not going to do business with you." He literally told me F off, and I'm pretty sure that it's recorded here too. So I was like, all right, yeah, mad. But in my head, I was like, bro, you're the sales dude. What I mean? I'm looking after the marketing guy. First time I got in touch with the marketing manager, was literally a few weeks later. He was like, yeah, man, let's book a meeting. We've got A, B, C, D that needs to get done. Let's do it. It didn't fall through at that point in time. 6 months later, though, they're a $6,500 retainer now with us, and they're one of our top clients at the minute. But
yeah,
just a bit of when you talk about rejections, for example. If I didn't have that experience, perhaps I probably would have given up on that lead, for example.
That is such a good metaphor and case study for everything you just said. Because that guy literally told you to F off, mate, get the message. We're not interested. And if you just I'll move on. But you're like, no, we get paid for yeses and nos. But what you did there, you're like, no, I'm not getting paid for a no from the sales guy. Yeah. You're a sales guy.
Yeah, 100%.
You're like me. You're used to I'm going to speak to the marketing guy. I love that. And yeah, it's one of our, best clients right now. So that's a great example. Look, final question, thanks, Janeka. This has been supremely helpful. It's a good reminder for me, the power of sales, and I'm sure for our listeners. Like any professional, right? Even the top athletes, even the top 1%ers, right? They still get training, right? They still get training. You spoke about, our sales trainer earlier. So my question to you is, as a sales professional, how do you stay fresh? How do you stay, current and relevant? How do you train yourself?
To be honest, and this is probably a smack in the face of myself, I definitely recommend read more books. You know what I mean? As Bob mentioned from Impact, you know, I mean, just got to read more books. If he was to go back in time 10 years, read more books. So that's something that I'll be a part of as well. Certain books that I do look into. There's Grant Cardone. You know, there's another guy, Brad Lee, that I look into as well. Also, The Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan Belfort, that's another one that I recommend as well. Yeah, definitely read more books. Follow the sales gurus. You know, they're the top. They're the top dogs for a reason. And when they jump on podcasts, when they're putting content out, just listen to them. Listen to them, because they're the ones who have been there. They've done the craft. They give you the nuggets. So definitely for any salespeople out there who would, you know, I definitely recommend read, definitely, and follow these sales gurus, 100%. And yeah, everything, as long as you've got those characteristic traits we just mentioned earlier, the course will find itself.
Yeah, awesome. Love that, Janeko. Guys, if you want to speak, if you want to buy some digital marketing from Janeko, give him a call.
Yeah.
If you want some sales strategies and some ideas on how we do stuff.
Do you want my number as well?
Yeah. Careful. Like, we're talking professionally here too, by the way. He's taken ladies, you know.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want to see someone who's markedly more good looking than me, check out redpandas.com.au/EP118 and you can see Janeko. I remember when he started, a few of the team members checked him out on Instagram. He had some footage there, but we won't go into that. I'm getting looks from other people in the team. But guys, thank you so much. We'll join you again next week for another episode of Inbound Buzz.
Thanks for listening to Inbound Buzz. Learn anything? Return the favor by spreading the word. Want to make your mark in digital? Need help with your digital strategy, inbound, and marketing automation efforts? Then visit redpandas.com.au and be sure to tune in next time for another Inbound Buzz hit.